Who's ready for some controversy? Welcome to our live stream.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Joe.
And we are
Two Crazy Ketos. And if you're new to our channel, welcome.
Yes, welcome.
Here on Two Crazy Ketos, we do different things like recipe videos and we do product reviews. We talk about various keto topics, and every Monday we go live on Keto Beyond the Couch because life exists beyond the couch.
You can find us in different social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And we have a website, which is twocrazyketos.com, and that's where you're going to find all of our different recipes. Now, we do upload at least 5 new videos every single week, so make sure you subscribe to our channel.
And don't forget to hit the little bell icon, and that way every single time we weigh in on a subject, you'll be alerted to it.
Hold on, you keep talking.
Okay, well, obviously we are going to be chatting today in response to the Erythritol post, the study that was kind of made public and everybody started talking about it yesterday. And anytime information comes out, good or bad, we get to decide what our response is going to be. And we get to decide, is our response going to be rooted in fear or is it going to be rooted in follow-up? And it's a big desire of us, like we've learned over the years, my response to things used to always be fear. Joe can tell you. I was chicken little. I assumed that everything was out to get me. I definitely had a negative mindset and believed the worst. And I'm so thankful for the clarity of mind, first of all, that this keto lifestyle has helped to afford us. But also, I'm glad that I'm growing in the area of follow-up. Yeah. I am able to do my own research and I'm able to craft my own response to information.
So, if you don't know what we're talking about, on Monday, it was all over the media, which should be our first, hey, let's look at this, right? It was all over the media, CNN, USA Today, and everything, that a new study has been published saying that erythritol causes heart disease, blood clots, could lead to stroke and heart attacks. And I actually became aware of it. I was actually on my way to a lacrosse game, and Anthony DiPetrillo sent me a text message saying, I knew I didn't like this stuff. So I immediately went and got the article. Here is the study. It is 28 pages long. It's published in Nature's Medicine. It is locked behind a paywall. If you are interested, I left a link down below. We are not affiliated with them, but I do have and did purchase a subscription to Nature's Medicine to read all of these various studies that come out and stuff.
Because I think that that's number one. What is our investment going to be? Okay, so if my freak out is only going to be as a response to somebody else's take on it, that's a problem right there. So if I really want to make some decisions in my family, in my pantry, I think the very first thing I need to do is take a look at the actual response. Because am I taking the Siskel and Ebert belief about a movie, right? Yeah. Or am I going to watch it for myself and then have my own response to it, right? Yeah. So, I understand that we have trusted professionals and we want to see where do they weigh in, but there's something, magical about reading a study for yourself and believing, I think that I've been doing this long enough. I think that I have enough intelligence that I can start untangling things and do research for myself.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of people that weigh in. We're going to weigh in. Now, remember, we are not doctors, nurses, or health professionals. If you read this study, it is very detailed. It really gets into nitty-gritty. It is very scientific, and a lot of people probably won't understand it. There's a lot of things in here that I don't understand, but I do know how to read these studies. And I know Dr. Berry posted a video about it yesterday, and immediately everyone's saying, Dr. Berry said throw out your erythritol. That is not what he said. I watched the full video. As a matter of fact, at 11:05 in the video, he said, if you are only occasionally having a keto treat, then I wouldn't worry about it as much. But if you are one of these people who is using erythritol in your coffee, i.e. Swerve, and you're having a keto bar, and you're having a keto snack at lunch, and you're having a keto cupcake with dinner, and you're consuming a lot of erythritol, you might want to start cutting back a little bit.
But shouldn't that be the case no matter what? Like, you don't even need a study, I don't think,
Right.
to tell us that your day should not be having a whole mess, a whole box of treats. Like, on those couple of occasions where I have gone overboard and eaten a box of snacks, even keto snacks, yes, I have done that, like, across the last 5 years.
I remember a Built Bar incident.
Right,
Which
so-
I think uses erythritol, if I remember right.
Do I think that that is correct behavior?
Right.
Do I need a scientist to do a study on the fact that I should not be eating largely a bunch of packaged treats as like the totality of my day's meal?
So I want to talk about a couple of flaws and issues that I have with this article and why we don't think you should be freaking out. We see a lot of people already in our Facebook group and in our Mighty Networks group saying, I'm throwing out everything with erythritol. Calm down.
Before you do.
Before you do, calm down, listen to us, listen to a lot of the other people. Maria Emmerich posted a video about it. I also left a link below from an amazing article from Dr. Sean Lowry, from Christy Sullivan, who is a PhD. So all of that is linked down below. Dr. Barry's video is linked down below. And our good friend Siobhan Huggins actually put a thing in our Facebook group about it.
I miss her face so much. When I saw her post, like, first of all, brilliant. The woman is brilliant.
Yep.
But then I just got like a tear in my eye because I was like, I miss Siobhan. I just want to see her face.
So, a couple of things. So basically they're saying they think there may be a link between erythritol and cardiovascular disease. A couple of things about this study that kind of are raising red flags for me, okay? And that is, number one, the study wasn't set out to actually research erythritol. It just kind of came up. All of the people they were studying were mostly men, older men, overweight men, had cardiovascular disease, some had diabetes, so they were already at risk for cardiovascular disease. The study does not show causation. It shows correlation.
Right. And that's a big thing. And we were talking about that last night together. You know, Joe came out of the shower and he was bright red. I mean, just bright red. This man turns bright red. Now, is he bright red because he took a hot shower? Is he bright red because he's flipping mad about this study? Or is he bright red because he was out in the sun all day?
Right. And here's another one for you to think about. If you started keto, like I did, over 300 pounds, a blood pressure level over 170, every possible risk for heart attack, stroke, diabetes, and then you checked my blood pressure 5 days later, and my blood pressure was 150 over 90, the correlation could be, hey, keto causes high blood pressure. But I already had high blood pressure before I started keto.
Right.
This to me is no different, again, my personal opinion, is no different than the people who say fat causes you to get fat. If you eat fat, you get fat. Red meat causes heart disease. It's got to be lumped into the same kind of looking glass. So that's number one. They weren't actually researching erythritol. The people that they were studying already had risks for heart disease, and it's just a correlation. They say in the study, we need to do further research because all of these people already have it. They don't even know where did the erythritol come from.
Well, I was going to say, because if you're already in poor health, erythritol can be produced by the body. So, like, you're not knowing, like, is this exogenous
It's
or
a naturally occurring thing in our body.
Yeah.
It can be converted from glucose in our body. It is in a lot of foods we eat already. And so those are things that we have to take a look at. Also, whenever there is a study, they have to list any possible conflicts they may have.
And rightfully so.
And let me see. I saw it on the paper. I don't know where it is inside of this, though. But at the bottom, let me see if I can find it in here where it is. Because looks different than when you read it online.
Is there any conflicts
of
interest?
There is some conflicts. So the author of the study actually has received money from Procter & Gamble in the past. So
does Procter & Gamble have any dog in the fight of making you steer away from sugar alcohols and go back to sugar?
Right. So those are all things that we need to think about. When it comes to the other thing is in the study, they were assuming an ingestion of 30 to 45 grams of erythritol a day. If you're on keto, you shouldn't be consuming 45 grams of erythritol a day, which is, once again, why we always tell people count total carbs.
Yeah.
1 gram of erythritol has 1 total carb. So if you're limiting yourself to 20 to 30, maybe even once in a blue moon, 40 total carbs, there is no way you would be consuming 45 grams of erythritol in a day.
Yeah. Well, and I am so thankful that maybe what was meant to do evil, what was meant to just make us so afraid and abandon our plans will actually help us to correctly optimize our keto journey. And that is, we need to count total carbs. If you have not already decided, I need to count total carbs, and you are still following a net carb protocol, I hope that today is the day that you don't start fearing things, but that you start counting total carbs. Today, our challenge for March, or not our challenge, but our focus for March, I'll eventually get that language out of my mind, but our challenge or our thought process for March is to focus on burger goals versus brisket goals. What is going to be a low and slow, truly all-in approach to our health goals? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, net carbs, that's a burger's goal. That is fast. I get what I want. It doesn't cost me much. I can have 5 or 10 desserts in a day if I am counting net carbs. That's a burger goal. Brisket goal is a total carb protocol. It's going to cost you. It may hurt a little as you get adjusted to it. It is challenging to do, but it is worth it. It is the low and slow approach to get your health goals satisfied, realized.
Yeah. Well-Fed Human said, I haven't seen the study yet. I have no idea what it says, but I'm going to guess the big food sugar industry might have funded it. Well, it is actually funded from a grant, but it doesn't say that, but I don't believe that's the case because, again, they weren't studying erythritol.
No.
It just so happened that in the study they were doing, they began to notice that all of these people had a bunch of erythritol in their blood. But again, where did it come from? They can assume that maybe it came from dietary intake because, again, everybody that they did study, and it was a very small group, were diabetic, had heart disease, at risk for stroke, and many of those people are already trying to get off of sugar.
Right.
But again, it's only a correlation. There's erythritol in their blood, and they have higher risk for heart disease. So you don't know, is the erythritol what is causing that? And that's something that we need to think of. Here is what I was looking for. The competing interest has in reports being named as the co-inventor on pending and issued patents held by the Cleveland Clinic relating to cardiovascular diagnostics and therapeutics, and being a paid consultant of Procter & Gamble and is currently with Zenith Therapeutics. He also reports having received research funds from Procter & Gamble, Zenith Therapeutics, and Roche Diagnostics, and being eligible to receive royalty payments for any inventions or discoveries related to cardiovascular diagnostics or therapeutics from the Cleveland Heart Lab. So, again, I'm not saying that he's in a situation where he's being paid to come up with a thing like Coca-Cola paying companies to say sugar is good, fat is bad. But it's just something to kind of, again, take a look at and stuff. Alan said that Maria Emmerich had a very good video on the issue as well. Yeah, I mean, all of us who started keto heard the same thing about beef, right?
Right.
Don't
Absolutely.
eat bacon. Don't eat beef.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're kind of used to someone telling you, like, you're going to die on this diet, and know that that's not true. And 5 years in, for me, more than 6 for Joe, we haven't died. Thank the Lord, right? Like, we're still here, and we do utilize erythritol. We've always made our lab results public so that you could see what's going on inside of our bodies. We've even had Dr. Sivis and Dr. Berry like untangle those results so that you can see from a medical perspective what's going on in our body. Are we getting healthier every year? Or are we getting, worse, sicker every year? We're getting healthier every year, and we do utilize erythritol. I loved, hearing from Maria and Craig last night where they were saying, like, she's, 20 plus years in and going strong. Mm-hmm. And she said, I have a sweet thing every single day because that makes me have this lifestyle be sustainable for me. So, I mean, to me, the proof is in the pudding, right?
Right. And it comes down to how much are you using. Are we throwing out our erythritol in our house? No. Do we consume erythritol every day? No. Do we consume it on an occasional basis? Like, we did a review video that's going to be back up later this week for a cookie that we found on Facebook called Ray's Cookies. And one of the ingredients is erythritol. If I remember right off of the top of my head, 2 of those cookies, or maybe it's one of those cookies. No, it was the double one. 2 of the cookies has like 9 grams of erythritol. But if that's the only keto treat I'm having for the day, I'm not worrying about that, especially when they say the average person eats less than 13 grams a day.
Right.
So if you're counting total carbs, which would help you not overconsume it, if you're counting net carbs, that's where you have an issue. Oh, this has got 45 grams of erythritol, but it's 0 net carbs, so I can have 5 of them.
Well,
and we have done that in the past.
I was going to say, because, and again, there's lots of different people here in the keto space, and we're so thankful for all of them. Some people are here primarily, their priority is weight loss. Some people are utilizing keto therapeutically to speak into some specific health issue. So we're going to be very different in our follow through. For somebody like Joe and I who are food addicts, just completely carbohydrate addicts, food addicts, there is a real danger for us for eating like a box of cookies in a sitting. For some people, it's unimaginable. It's not something they've ever had a challenge with. 1 cookie and done. For us, it is something for us to keep eyes on. And if you are like us and have like some food addiction issues, then this is a good reminder that like you shouldn't be eating a box of cookies a day. No matter what, whether they're keto or whether they're not keto. What we worry about the most is newcomers to the space who are going to hear something like this and be like, oh my goodness, I need to stop this diet. See, my family was right. My doctor was right. Keto is dangerous, and everything associated with keto is dangerous. The red meat is dangerous, and the sugar substitutes are dangerous, and I need to just go back to the standard American diet and figure it out there. That's what I'm most worried about when it comes to this.
And especially when you look at sugar, and we're going to get into the chat in a second. When you look at sugar, I would rather consume a cup of erythritol, even though that's a lot more than 45 grams, than a cup of sugar. Whether or not sugar is going to cause the same issues. The sugar is going to cause diabetes and heart disease and clogging of my arteries and all of that other stuff. So it's like I'm gonna take a line from Dr. Berry. It's less bad. Right? It is still less bad. And I think that as you continue on your keto journey, you end up using less and less and less of this kind of stuff. Yeah. When we first got started, we did mug cakes and fat bombs every single day. But that's what kept me on keto.
Yes.
The longer I've been on keto, the more I found like I don't really need a treat that often. Once in a while, I want something sweet. And that is where the erythritol or allulose or anything comes in. And I would also just caution you and go like, okay, erythritol's bad, so I'm going to dive deep into allulose. Allulose is relatively a new sweetener being used as a sweetener. Again, it's a naturally occurring thing, but it's still something that we don't know a whole lot about. And I still like really firmly believe that overdoing anything, with the exception of beef, could be bad for you.
Right.
If you drink too much water, you can drown yourself.
Yes,
Did
you
you know
can.
that? You can drown yourself if you drink too much water.
Yeah.
So even drinking too much water, which we can all say water is good for you, could be dangerous to our health. So we need to put those kind of things into perspective. And before we get into the chat, I will give you one thing. If you are currently using erythritol for sweetening your coffee, and you don't like sucralose, my suggestion would be get pure monk fruit. And I am actually working on a video. I'm waiting for something to come in the mail to show you how to make your own liquid monk fruit.
Yeah.
Okay? So here, this is sweetened with liquid monk fruit.
Thank
because
you.
even I would like to not use as much sucralose as we used to.
Super, super sweet. Very delicious.
So Lakanto actually sells a liquid monk fruit, but it's very expensive. For a long time, you couldn't get it. And years ago, I bought this product from them. They don't sell it anymore. It's basically just dried monk fruit.
Right.
But you can't use this in your coffee because a serving is like 1/64th of a teaspoon. And so good luck with that. So I'm working on the right ratios to turn it into a liquid. I think I've got it, but like because they don't get this have this anymore, I'm waiting for something from a different company. And then we will show you how to make, if you want, liquid monk fruit, because monk fruit is not a sugar alcohol and it is 0 total carbs. So that is something to look for. When you buy the big bags of Lakanto monk fruit, that is like 99% erythritol,
right,
with a little bit of monk fruit to help up the sweetness and take away some of that cooling effect. I saw a bunch of things here in the chat.
I like Radical Geek says, basically the study says if you are an old man with cardiovascular issues and diabetes, you may not want to have a whole lot of erythritol every day.
Yeah, but again, even look what Maitreya is saying. Every day. If you're having one keto treat every few days, I think you're fine. Again, my personal opinion. This is where I start looking at, do I need the extra thing? So if I'm making something like a cheesecake or a baked good that you do need to have a granular sweetener, go ahead and use the erythritol and think about how much you're going to have. But if you're gonna you have coffee, find a different sweetener. Use stevia, liquid monk fruit, liquid sucralose, something like that.
Which do you think?
Don't add a bunch of erythritol to your keto ice cream. I think it's sweet enough, and if you need to up the sweetness, use a little bit of liquid stevia or liquid. Usually when you get into liquid sweeteners,
right,
either sucralose, stevia, or liquid monk fruit, you don't have to worry about that stuff because they don't have to bind it to anything. It's when they make it granular and it's a super potent sweetener like monk fruit where they have to bind it to something. And when it comes to monk fruit, usually it's bound to erythritol because it's better than maltodextrin.
Joy has a good question. Which is less bad between sucralose and erythritol?
Which is less? It depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
Erythritol is naturally occurring. Sucralose is technically an artificial sweetener, whereas erythritol is not an artificial sweetener. It is a natural sweetener. Sucralose, and Chris has got a great post on it, and I'm not like a techie kind of person, or as we would call Chris a nerd, but it's made by actually breaking apart sugar molecules, and I believe it's adding in an extra chlorine. I don't even think he's on here, but he's got an article on it. I don't mind liquid sucralose. If you look at the study that talks about liquid sucralose when it comes to your gut biome, and we are concerned about our gut biome. We had a lot of talks with Dr. Lenskis about gut biome and how I want to start working on improving my gut biome with fermented foods and yogurts more. The amount that they were feeding those rats was ridiculous. Like for me to get the amount of sucralose, it's very much like this study where they're assuming 45 grams. Well, I'm not near 45 grams. But I would have to drink 96 keto chows a day to get the amount of sucralose that they were feeding those rats. Also, by the way, I'm not a rat.
I'm willing to put in the effort.
Really?
That's a lot of good ice cream right there.
Well, okay. Kathy said,
Hey,
I've
Kathy.
already heard Dr. Barry Maria Emmerich's take on erythritol. You will be the tiebreaker.
Thanks so much.
John said, not sure about everyone else, but I only consume one product every day that has 2 grams of erythritol.
Boom.
I think I'm okay if I have 2, and giving it up would be like others giving up coffee.
And that is so important. Again, it's funny how I openly poisoned my body for decades. And like, I knew that, boy, I mean, you would look at an ingredient list even before keto and you'd be like, that sucker's this long to make a ho-ho, right? This can't be good, what I am ingesting, right?
Right.
And yet I just put it right down my guzzle. I guzzled it like, nobody's business. And now we're like, oh my gosh, I need to freak out every single time somebody suggests that a singular ingredient in my life, like, is bad. I need to like completely freak out, you know what I mean? And just like be paralyzed with fear of like how to move forward in my day.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we're not doing that.
Serena said, this study is good. I use erythritol once in a while, maybe less now because I already have a clotting disorder. So it doesn't affect me much, but it's good info to know. And again, yeah, if you are already at super high risk, I would definitely look at limiting it.
Yeah.
When Dr. Barry, if you watch Dr. Barry's video and he talks about, I think the people who really need to be worried are the people who are coming into keto and don't even want to think about giving up all of their sweets. They're just going to go from, hey, eating sugar to just eating tons of erythritol 5-6 times a day. Well, we've always said from day one, that's not good. Like, too much of anything is not a good thing. And again, it's simple to fix this. If you want to continue to consume erythritol, but you don't want to overconsume it, just count the carbs in it. Just count the carbs.
Right.
And also, by the way, a lot of erythritol is generally going to put you in the bathroom. And it's going to not even just put you in the bathroom, it's going to make you feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
It just tears apart your stomach because of the way your body handles it.
Chris is here. Hi, Chris.
Let's see. Joanna said, I use monk fruit with erythritol, very little in my coffee. I heard the news, but I hadn't heard the news, but did see Dr. Barry's. Won't stop me from using it, though. And again, the problem with the monk fruit with erythritol is it's a touch of erythritol, a touch of monk fruit, and a lot of erythritol. It's very similar to what Splenda does with sucralose. It's a whole bunch of dextrose and maltodextrin with just a touch of sucralose, because that's the only way you could measure it cup for cup. Listen, John said this study can't show causality. I've seen worse observational studies that said it's still crap. The only real thing is it shows if you increase anything in your bloodstream by 1,000%, it won't be good.
And I think that is a takeaway. If you know yourself, if you are presently going to extremes with something, if you're like me and you're consuming 1 or 2 pots of coffee today, like that's something to look into. If you are eating 4 or 5 keto treats every single day, that's something to look into. If we are not able to moderate something in our life, that is something to look into. Mm-hmm. If I have like a increased surplus of like all of my thoughts are negative, if I'm chewing on a lot of negativity, that's something to look into, right? Too much of something. If you're like, I am watching the news on a loop 24 hours a day and like staying fretful all the time, that's something to look into, right? Because that can poison us, for
Jennifer said, my sweetener of choice is Bocha Sweet. Too much erythritol gives me issues, us too. But for now, the occasional erythritol is okay with me. Yep, we feel the same way. Patty, today is her birthday.
Patty! Okay, let's sing to Patty. Ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Patty. Happy birthday to you. And many more. So many more.
B-Dog said, I was eating too many keto sweets. I needed to cut back anyway. It's time. Thanks, y'all.
See, and that is a good thing to take away. Like, what do we need to take a look at? That, where can we optimize our keto journey. Like, what can we do? Maybe it's movement. Maybe we need to take a look at sleep. Maybe, I need to take a look at stress and actively do some stress reduction. Like, where should I really be taking a look?
Yeah. Carnivore Kip Barbecue and
Hey.
said, hello, everyone. I will be 2 months carnivore tomorrow. Last time I weighed was 48 pounds
Congratulations.
down. That's awesome.
Way to go.
Yeah, Linda said, Maria said it was a study done on 8 people.
It was more people than that, but 8 people
40.
that have, like, I think type 2 diabetes or
Yes.
something already existing.
Yep. Shanta said, I posted in the group about this article on sugar alcohol. I'm glad you were doing a video.
Thanks so much
on
for
it.
being here.
Yeah. John said, isn't the daily dosage they use like 35 grams a day, and their test subjects were pulled from a group of people with compromised cardiac function, no bias there.
Yeah.
It was actually 40. They were assuming 45 grams a day. And I think the FDA said that the average person consumes like 13 grams. So that's a big difference.
Huge.
Like,
And again, is it in their blood or is it something that is exogenous? Like, that we don't know.
Right.
We didn't study that.
Maribel said, I like stevia and sucralose, but don't have enough of it to be worried about it. Yep, that's how we feel.
And here's the thing. Everybody has a preference when it comes to sweetener, right? And I don't think that for me, it would be sustainable to say, like, you know what? In response to this, I'm going to have no sweetener ever in my life. If I make that blood oath and say, like, that's it, I'm never going to have a keto treat again, and that's going to be my stand, not if, but when I have some sort of a keto treat in the future, in the next 50 years, because I intend on living a long life, right? This isn't the last year I'm on earth. When I go ahead and have a keto treat, what's that going to do to me? That is going to mess with my belief in myself. I'm going to have guilt. I'm going to have shame. Like, I'm going to feel like I fail at my goals. But I would be setting an unreasonable goal for myself, saying, at least for me, well, we're just never, ever going to want or partake of anything ever again.
Right. And I can give you lots of examples of other foods that we're probably all consuming, that if you're consuming a lot of it, it's probably not good for you. And I'll tell you one that I know I consume a lot of that probably isn't good for me, and that is jalapenos.
Oh.
Right? It's a nightshade, right? Eating a lot of tomatoes, not really good for us. We were talking even with Chris. Turns out plants don't want to be eaten.
They
like
don't.
to poison us.
How dare they?
Right? Plants like to poison us, especially when you eat their seeds. So
You're taking their babies.
So we have to look at how much are you eating. Let's see. What is this? Girlina?
Hi.
So 8 already overweight and sickly older men were trying to cut their sugar intake by using erythritol. Sounds like the state of their health was more of an issue here.
Yeah, and we don't know, like, where they are. I mean, again, there's just so much information that's lacking. I don't know even what they're eating. I don't even know that they've eaten this erythritol. I'm not sure, like, what they've consumed and what the rest of their diet looks like.
Right. Well, it's like even like with the study on sucralose, the rats were not on a ketogenic diet. So how can you compare what sucralose does in me on a ketogenic diet and not eating nearly the dose that they were feeding those rats to a rat that was not on a ketogenic diet? It's completely different. That's like comparing the health of a vegan to the health of a carnivore.
Very different diet.
You're going to have, and then saying, well, Tylenol. Well, I mean, I want to see everything. Now, do I think they should do more studies? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if it turns out that, absolutely, erythritol can kill us, then, take it off the market. But until they do that, I'm just going to go into this the way we've always been, and once in a while is not going to hurt me. I still occasionally drink a Diet Coke or a Coke Zero or something that has caramel coloring. Am I consuming caramel coloring every single day? No. Should I? No. Is it the greatest thing in the world for me to consume? No, but once in a while, when I look at my overall health, I'm not going to worry about it as much. Remember, 90% is good enough. We're never going to be perfect. Anybody that tells you they are eating perfectly either is A, misinformed, or is battling with some self-righteousness, because there's only one person who ever existed on this earth that is perfect. And if you want to know, you can ask us later about that. Rhiannon said, thank you so much, my friends, for doing this. Big emergency headlines everywhere. You're my favorites for getting right on this.
Thank you so much.
And here's the thing, can we at least raise our eyebrows a little bit, is why are all of these national media chains jumping on this?
There's a lot of invested advertising in getting us off of keto.
You worked for the Washington Post.
I did.
Is there any possibility that some companies pay extra advertising money for the Washington Post or CNN or USA Today to publish an article that may benefit them?
Well, not only is ad placement like a huge thing, and I mean, and this is in broadcasting, this is on Facebook. I mean, companies are spending a lot of money to get their thoughts, their products, their propaganda in your eye line. Why? Because if we see it, we will chew on it, right? Like that's why, things are at your eye line at the grocery store. That's why we say if you're trying to start a keto lifestyle and you live with people in your house that are not keto, get their products out of your lifeline, out of your eye line. Why? Because you will chew on the things that are in your eye line. So yeah, there's tons of money to put ads in certain places, and let's be honest, negative things sell. If I can scare you, I mean, I can remember doing articles about like a car accident and trying to report back even to my editor, like how bad is the damage? How ugly does it look? And that determined where, like above the fold or below the fold, that the article would run. I mean, it feels terrible, but it's like, yes, we will report on a fire, but we will have a bigger article if the house burns down, if it looks like really bad, if we get a very grisly photo, because negativity and fear and ugliness, that sells.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it does.
John said, I saw 500 pounds on the scale and was diagnosed type 2 diabetic before I decided to start keto. I saw 600 pounds, so I was more concerned with type 2 diabetes. Yeah, so if you're 500 or 600 pounds and you're told I have type 2 diabetes, are you really going to worry about consuming erythritol? Because the bottom line is the erythritol is going to help you get off of the sugar and therefore hopefully help you lower your blood sugar and eventually not become a type 2 diabetic, and then maybe eventually you won't need the erythritol. If you have somebody who is a heroin addict, they give them other drugs to help them get off of those drugs, to get off of the heroin. They use things that are less bad and then slowly wean them off of that. But to go from heroin and go cold turkey, well, that can cause a lot of issues as well.
Right.
So these are all things that we have to look at. Alyssa and John said acacia fiber and allulose is the only exception I ever subtract, and even at that, I count them. Yeah, and we say all the time, listen, acacia fiber is a super beneficial fiber. It's really beneficial for your gut biome. It is really good to help your body create ketones. Allulose is another thing that's really good, but even there, we still tell you, go ahead and count it. There is a recommended amount of allulose that you should be consuming. And I have seen keto products that have 3 times the recommended amount in one serving. That itself is not good. Yeah. At the end of the day, count it. Hey, this has got 12 grams of allulose. Count it. I had, 12 grams of carbs of allulose. At the end of the day, if your body doesn't digest it and use it for fuel, which is what it would do, if it's any kind of carbohydrate your body can use as a fuel. Certain ones like allulose and acacia fiber that are fibers, your body won't use it because of the way it's digested. And if your body doesn't use it, the worst thing that's going to happen at the end of the day is you had less carbs than you thought you did.
The only reason why I say no matter what, in all circumstances, with all products, count total carbs is because I don't want us to create like a 0 point something in the keto space. That really plays into food addiction. When you have a food addiction issue, that's why Weight Watchers is perfect for a food addict like me. Why? Because there's going to be 0 point things. There's going to be foods that I don't have to count, I don't have to face, I don't have to deal with. And so sometimes the net carb thing allows me to feel good about stuff, not face things, not deal with things because, hey, it says this is 0 carbs. I think that is why the 0 carb breads are doing so well, while the 0 carb wraps are doing so well. Because the ingredients could be garbage, but because it says 0 net carbs on it, or the net carbs are very low, then me as a food addict's gonna come into that space and be like, hey, this is speaking a language that I understand, and that is things that don't actually happen, food that is not really happening inside of my body. So if we just take a total carb protocol, we don't fall victim to that.
Yeah. Sheila said the study seems legit. I actually agree. For all the people, and this is not a knock on anybody in our group or anything.
No.
I've seen a lot of stuff online like, oh, it's funded by, like the sugar industry. I don't believe so because they weren't studying erythritol. I think that the study does seem legit and it does raise questions that, hey, we should look into it. All of these people have like 1,000 times the amount of erythritol they should have in their blood. So I do think we should study it. I think the people that we need to be questioning is, why is the media making a big deal out of this? Again, just my thought. But let's see. The media is controlled by the pharmaceutical industry, by big food, and all of those things. Who's consuming erythritol? Let's be honest. Who's consuming it? All of us. People who are eating a keto,
fringe group,
low-carb lifestyle. Big food and big pharma doesn't like keto and low carb because it's affecting their pocketbooks. So all of a sudden you've got every major news media going, don't eat erythritol. Erythritol is going to give you heart disease. Go back to eating your sugar. It's better for you.
Right.
To me, it's not the study. It's the people who are making a big deal out of this.
Yeah.
And so, again, watch Dr. Veery's video. He said, should we raise our eyebrows a little bit of erythritol? Yes. Is erythritol an ancestral food? No. Therefore, you shouldn't be consuming it every single day, John said 40 grams a day is almost a case of Monster Energy.
Yeah.
And I drink 1 or 2 a day.
Okay, so that's a really good perspective to have. So, yes, if you are currently consuming a case of Monster Energy drinks a day, this is your wake-up call. It is time to stop doing that thing.
Yep. Jennifer said it too. Again, total carbs, right? To ingest 40 grams of erythritol in Lily's dark chocolate chips, you would have to eat 13 servings. That would be 104 total carbs.
Yeah,
That's not going to happen without bathroom
You
pyrotechnics.
are so right, Jennifer. If you're going to eat that much, you're going to need a new bathroom. It's going to take the wallpaper off, y'all. That is a serious thing that if you're hey, okay, I need to cut back on Lily's chocolate chips. Don't do it, you don't need to do it just because you're fearful from a study. If you're having 5 or 6 cups of Lily's chocolate chips, maybe you need to examine why am I eating so much dessert?
Right.
Why am I eating so many snacks? Why do I need to have so many sweet things? Is there some stress in my life that I'm not dealing with and I'm just responding to that stress with food, something sweet? Am I trying to distract myself? Am I trying to wake up? Am I trying to energize by utilizing things like too much coffee and too much sweets? What am I doing? What is the reason for me eating these things? Because I know that that's too much. We have common sense.
Right.
We can exercise it. We know that that's too much.
Yeah. Okay. So I saw Serena said, I love Swerve when I started keto, but my tastes have changed and stevia is now my jam.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you, I'm just like Serena, in the beginning, I couldn't tolerate stevia. It tasted nasty to me. And I've changed my approach. Now, if there's too much erythritol in something, do I feel a cooling effect on my tongue? Yes, I do. But that's just going to be like a taste perspective. That's going to be subjective as far as like what sweetener you like. You're not wrong for liking a certain taste. Now, obviously, Joe is wrong for not liking ribeyes as much as I do. That is incorrect in opinions, right? But like when it comes to sweeteners, you know, dealer's choice.
Joanna said, being here, love is the high life of my day. I'm waiting for a new podcast to drop. Hint, hint.
Yes.
Yes, we are behind on our podcast because we were gone and then we came home and we have been sick. I think we're at the tail end of our chest cold, but we did try to do some recording.
We could not stop coughing.
It comes through. And you know, when you have a podcast, which is audio only, nobody wants to hear a raspy, phlegmy voice.
Right.
And so, yeah, we've just been waiting to go. We'll probably record our podcast tomorrow and then get back onto the podcast bandwagon. Alyssa and John said, as a side note, erythritol is not part of any real keto menu. Well, there's no such thing as a keto food.
Right.
But it's not species appropriate. That said, if people on the lifestyle have it because they choose to not, they should have it.
Yeah.
They also said the vegan community is going to use this study as a big stick in the debates.
Absolutely.
Yes, they are.
Now, what I will ask of you, family, whether or not you're deciding to utilize alternative sweeteners or not, is don't go after anybody who's making a different decision than you are. That's it. Like that is very important. It is more important that we nourish one another's souls, that we nourish one another's lives, the mindset, that we use edifying language, that we encourage one another. That is the most important thing to me. Why? Because you can destroy someone a whole lot faster using mean and negative language than you can feeding them food. Yep. Right? Like what people chew on as far as like if they think I'm wrong, I'm bad, I'm making terrible decisions. I haven't gotten to the point where I can completely eliminate a keto sweet. Therefore, I'm a less than person. To me, that is so much more dangerous than any sugar alcohol. Okay? So it's very important for us that we like speak life into another human being's week. If you have an opportunity to see like somebody post a picture today, they don't even know about this study, they haven't watched a single thing, and they say, hey, here is my own personal recipe for a cheesecake using erythritol, don't go in there and yuck their yum. Right?
Well-Fed Human said,
hey,
I have noticed a concerted effort to blame a lot of things for increased risk or increased number of cardiovascular adverse events. Pfizer needs some scapegoats.
Yeah, they do.
I agree. And I'm just going to say, we're already seeing, if you research this, a lot of people who have heart attacks have perfect normal cholesterol, according to what they say normal cholesterol is. Well, if you're starting to notice that people who have heart attacks have normal cholesterol, what are we going to, is there ever going to be a point where we're going to start going, it's the food you eat. It's that you're eating overly processed food. It's that you're consuming too much sugar. It's the consumption of seed oils and grains, and all of that is causing inflammation. That it's not the beef, it's not the butter, it's not the lard and the tallow. It's the other stuff. It's the hydrogenized oils and it's the sugar. But they don't want to because they're controlled by the food industry and the drug industry. So they've got to find a scapegoat. They've got to find something to blame, and we're the ones they want to blame.
Well, and here's the thing. Like, if we take Tabitha to the vet, no matter what is the issue going on in her body, the first thing the vet asks is, what is she eating? Tell me about her diet. When was the last time that like you met with a doctor who led with, what are you eating? what are you eating? You know, Joe, we recently went for his hand and we had to fill out all that paperwork where you're thinking like, is there a house like on the other side of this paperwork? Because there was like so much paperwork. We were in a different state. They ask every single thing about his family history, about like problems he's had,
What does my
surgeries.
history with diabetes have to do with the fact that I
hurt my hand?
I hurt my wrist.
But what was interesting was it was so comprehensive. Except for the one thing that was missing is they never asked us, what are you eating? They didn't ask if there was any relationship to what were we putting in our body multiple times a day.
Yep. Alyssa and John said sucralose is made by selectively chlorinating, sucrose, and liquid sucralose is made by dissolving a sucralose in a solvent such as water or ethanol. That's exactly right. It's so difficult to measure out pure sucralose because it is so potent.
Tiny.
It is 600 times sweeter than sugar, which is why we buy liquid sucralose. We have tried to make our own liquid sucralose, and I have been successful with it. It is not worth the time, the energy, the couple of cents that you are going to save on it, because you will be tasting sweet for the next 5 days.
Oh, yeah.
It gets everywhere.
And
you're only saving a couple of pennies. When you buy the bottles of liquid sucralose that we use, you get it in a big bottle. That is, I think it's 25% sucralose to water by weight. So if it's 25 grams of sucralose, and then 100 grams of water or something like that.
But that alone, it'll blow your senses out. You can't have more than a drop or two of it.
Yep. Sharon said the stevia that I use has erythritol as the first ingredient. So don't use powdered stevia if you're worried about erythritol. So again, you're going to have pure stevia is again almost impossible to measure out. It's a tiny, tiny amount, because it's from a plant. And so what happens is if you get too much stevia, it gets very bitter. It is from a plant leaf. You can actually grow your own if you want and make your own stevia. It's such a tiny amount to be able to measure it out properly. When they take it and they're going to give it to you in like a little packet form, which is why you don't really usually see packets of stevia. You'll see like stevia in the raw.
Right.
It's got to be bound to something or mixed with something so that you can measure it out. And usually they use dextrose, maltodextrin, or erythritol. You don't want anything that's got dextrose or maltodextrin. That is actually worse than sugar.
Yeah.
They might as well just be mixing it with sugar.
Right.
Exposing darkness, is Splenda that bad because of the dextrose? Yes. So Splenda is a brand. People confuse Splenda with sucralose, and Splenda will even make liquid monk fruit. They have a lot of different things. They're just the name of a company. They're most known for when they first came out with using sucralose. They took sucralose, they blended it with dextrose, and they put it in this yellow bag and said measures out perfectly cup for cup with sugar.
Which looks great.
And that works great.
Very appealing.
But the dextrose is really bad for you. It is another form of sugar. It just, the way it works in our body, it takes a little bit longer to metabolize, but it's still going to spike your glucose. It still has a glycemic index. And so you really want to use the liquid, the pure, and then put it into water to give it something that you can measure out. The problem is it becomes difficult to use as a baking thing. Kathy said, do you have a recipe for your protein bed you all are eating? It's based on Maria Emmerich's. What we do is we took Maria Emmerich's and then we add in a scoop of chicken soup keto chow.
It's so good, though.
It's really good. You can actually use any of the sweet flavors of keto chow to have like a dessert thing.
Oh, it's so delicious.
Honestly, if you're just looking for a flat out bread, the best one is Indigo Nili's butter one, where she's putting in frozen grated butter, and that makes it a higher in fat. It also makes it not so styrofoamy.
But I will tell you that if you do our version,
we need to make some of that.
I know, but if you do our version where you add the keto chow to it, it really is tasty.
We came home from Utah to like 7 dozen eggs because the boys didn't eat. Michelle drove down here. She's like, I need eggs. I'm like, take them, please. take them. I've got like 9 dozen at this point.
Right.
So we got a bunch of eggs. We should
the
make
babies have started laying.
Yeah.
Y'all would be so proud of them. They're little tiny eggs, but like they're starting to really build up a nice, beautiful egg basket of different colors just in time for the Easter season.
A couple more before we get off. You have a coaching call.
I do.
Exposing Darkness said, hello, catching this. I took the day off. Many of the studies, not sure if this one fits, use such a high level that many of us are not at risk.
So true.
Absolutely
really
true.
Great perspective.
I read that one. What is this? Sammy?
Hi, Sammy.
Does sucralose spike your glycemic? No. It is 0 on the glycemic index. Now, with that being said, for many people, anything sweet can possibly cause a rise in insulin. It's called the cephalic insulin response.
Oh, Nellie's here.
And what
hey, girl.
happens is, Nilly. Oh, I don't know if she can post it. I wanted you to post your butter bread recipe.
Yeah, if you could link that.
Chris can post it if Chris has got it. But yeah, when you have something sweet, your brain's like, oh, something sweet going. Let me release a little bit of insulin. Now, that quickly goes away. The best way to counteract that is when you're going to have something sweet, do it with your food. Do it with your meal. So if you're going to have a piece of chocolate, do it with your meal or right after your meal where you're already having an insulin reaction. Remember, we want insulin reactions. We just don't want them all day long.
Fence them in. We want cows, but we want them fenced in.
Even when we were talking to Dr. Lenskis, he was talking about he noticed when somebody consumes some carbohydrates, not saying you should, if you did it on your own, you had a much higher glucose spike than if you did it with your food.
Yeah.
But there's other issues with doing it with food. Yeah, Jennifer said the poison is in the dose.
Ooh, that's good.
Yep.
That's good.
Serena said, we eat too much cheese. Me too.
And that's the thing. I mean, you're like, we worry about the one thing, but it's like, are we dealing with what we authentically have a problem with? Or are we just using like the latest thing to worry about as a distraction from not actually making some changes we already know we need to make, right?
Mm-hmm. Exposing Darkness said people take more than a recommended amount of over-counter drug. All things in moderation is good advice.
That's good.
I got news for you. I don't really take it anymore because I just don't want to take the stuff. I'd rather just deal with the pain unless I absolutely have to. But if I have to take Tylenol, I take like 8 of them.
Yeah.
Because I was on so many medications from my ankle that a dose of Tylenol doesn't hit me at all.
Yeah.
Most of the time, if I go to the doctor and they'll try to give me like ibuprofen, I'm like, it's not going to work. I need something harder. Because I spent over 20 years taking, Vicodin and Oxycontin. Like, what is that going to do for me? It doesn't help me at all. Serena said, I'm going to say something inflammatory. Why are there so many articles blasted all over about the heart problems and neurological problems about certain things that are forced on us?
That is so stinking true. That is a really good question to ask ourselves. And as we get off, it's just, this is an opportunity to protect your peace, to think about hey, it's problematic enough to stay positive. And our positivity is very vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And maybe we need to put a fence around that. I don't want to live in fear and worry and being tossed around by whatever studies come out, So obviously we're going to make the very best choices. That begins with whole foods. Whole foods. The more whole foods you're eating, the less wrappers around what you're eating, the better you're gonna feel, you're gonna be. But we also need to guard our positivity and not let, advertisers or studies or doctors or even family members make us feel fearful as we live out our keto journey.
Just wants to know, what liquid sucralose do you recommend? There is a link on our website for our Amazon store. It's in there. John said you can freeze eggs in silicone cupcake molds without breaking the yolks, pop them out, put them in a Ziploc bag and store for months. Yeah, and I freeze dry them, but I also have a 3-month-old grandbaby, and I have a mama that wants to eat that way, and John Paul is eating very close to a keto lifestyle. I say keto-ish, right?
Keto adjacent.
And,
low carb.
And if I can supply my son and my daughter with eggs,
Yeah.
Have at it. Now, if I've got 2 dozen, no, you can't have any. Sorry. That's for mice. But
Peyton
when
can have them.
When I have an overabundance, well, Peyton can have anything.
Right.
When I have an overabundance, I'm happy to give them to him.
Right.
Chris said,
Fewer wrappers
is what Rachel recommends.
Yes, that's exactly.
You have a
less
coaching
of that.
call. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to take this video. We're going to cut off the beginning with the countdown, and it will be posted for you to come back and watch later. Have a great day, guys.
We
Bye.
love you.